In this presentation, we're going to be looking at the modeling features of Maya 2017 and back to Maya 2016 extension 2, where our engineers have finalized the symmetry workflows in Maya so that you can use all the tools in a symmetrical fashion and just model on one side of your objects and then mirror that over to the other side. I've loaded here the model of The Witcher, the complete games model that was actually done in 3ds Max. My colleague Alex Horst has converted that to me into Maya format. I'm using this to illustrate these new features, these new tools that allow you to work in a symmetrical fashion. So let's concentrate on the head for the moment, and I'm going to hide all these other layers here. And we will have a look how this symmetrical workflow works for now. One important thing in Maya 2017 is the new workspaces. So at the moment we are looking at the Maya Classic workspace, which replicates the default layout of the viewport. When you start Maya, when you install Maya, you see that we have the timeline on, which is not necessary for modeling. Same for the playback range. And we can switch the complete workspace by going into another one. I've created some of my own workspaces here, but these are standard workspaces that are delivered with Maya. So the modeling standard, for example, turns off the timeline, switches to the modeling toolkit, goes into the modeling or the sculpting shelf here. So you can define for your workspaces which shelf will be displayed, which hotkey set which will be displayed, so that you're all set when you start with your modeling. So let's have a look now how the symmetry thing goes. Since this is this low resolution character here for the games, doesn't have any asymmetrical features. For example, for this scar here, the cinematics character has a higher resolution and also has the scar built into the geometry, which would make it asymmetrical. But this one here is completely symmetrical. So we can, in the modeling toolkit, we can go and turn on the topological symmetry, and it asks me for an edge, which would be the symmetry edge. That's the middle edge here. And then the tool checks the symmetry immediately and will refuse to turn it on when it's not symmetrical. So from now on, whatever I do will be done on both sides. So when I select faces, for example, you see that the pre-selection highlighting works on both sides. And it's also blue, which means there is a face on the other side. So just in case you model on one side, you can see by the color of the pre-select highlight that it would be symmetrical for the other side. So when you pick something and move it around, everything will be symmetrical. Also, many of the tools that we are using. So here, for example, the multi-cut tool will be symmetrical on both sides. So an example is the eye situation here, where I can, grab a vertex and then cut over some edges here over to this side. And as soon as I hit enter to confirm, it will be cut on both sides, of course. So that is nice. Same thing, for example, when you hold the control key on the multi-cut, you can cut edge loops. Just a single click will cut the edge loop on both sides. Another example is the connect tool, where you can, in multi-selection mode, you can select a point, edges, not in connect mode, and again a point here. And then when you click on the slide feature here, you can use a middle mouse button and slide it back and forth, and you see it happens on both sides. And of course, when I hit enter to confirm, it will cut the thing into both sides of this character. And other features as well. For example, when I hold the shift key and do the offset edge loop tool, so when I click on one of these edge loops here, I can cut features on both sides here of the edge, and of course that's mirrored also. Another nice feature is the insert edge loop tool. The insert edge loop tool has a special feature. When you hold Control and Shift together and right mouse button, you see the options of the current tool, and one of them is the autocomplete. And autocomplete would, just let me click something and it would try to complete the tool immediately. So this one lets me select edges and then select another edge, and you see when I hold the mouse button, the left mouse button, it will let me adjust the cut so far, and then I can click more edges. I'm not holding shift here, I'm just clicking on these edges. And then this one here, and finally this one here to complete the edge loop. And then I can still adjust it, and you see the X-ray from the other side, so the same thing works on the other side. And then I hit confirm, and that would complete the cut here. So it's also important to look at the features. The shift control right mouse button always shows you the options of the current tool. So that is one example where, you know, all of these tools work in a symmetrical fashion and help you to save time, of course. Topological symmetry has the advantage that the shape on the other side doesn't matter too much. So if this was completely deformed here, it wouldn't matter, because topological symmetry looks at the faces and the relations and counts the vertices, so to say, and then finds out what this thing on the other side is. So another example of symmetry are things that really go deep into the details of the geometry. So for example, when I work on a single vertex here and I shift right mouse button, I could engage the vertex normal tool that allows me to adjust the normal of a single or of a bunch of vertices. So when I highlight this ring here, you can see that the normal on the other side is also changed together with this one. So that also works in a symmetrical fashion, and I really enjoy that you can dive so deep into the geometry to edit all features, all aspects of your polygon. Now let's have a look at another aspect of symmetry. So I'm going to turn off symmetry for now, and I can simply click with the middle mouse button on this little triangle here. It's the same for many of these pull down menus. You can click with the middle mouse button to turn it off and then to turn it on again. So for the moment, I would like to subdivide or to smooth this character to get a nicer resolution. And let's say this is something we want to replicate or want to retopologize using our quad draw tool. This retopologize works on any polygon object you could make live, and then all of the new geometry would jump to that live surface. So your live surface becomes your modeling world, your 2D world, so to say. So I'm switching this live here. And maybe it's important to remember what it is. It's this object here, because later we might use this to change some of the features. So and now I will turn on the symmetry for the world x-axis. So across the x-axis, because I cannot use the live object for topological symmetry. And now with quad draw, I would start to lay down points, and you see all these points also are on both sides of the character. So I'm simply putting down some points, and as soon as I hold the shift key, it highlights possible polygons here. So I just click and click and click to create new polygons. And then you can turn on, or you can hold the tab key to extend the edges, for example, extend here and maybe one more. So you can snap them together in the symmetry, and then later hold the control key to make extra cuts to increase the resolution a little bit. You see that some of the display here sinks into the geometry, which is not very nice. We are working on that. One way to work around it at the moment, or actually two ways to work around it. So the first one is to go to the layer. It's this one here, the head mesh layer. And you can, for the layer, and you can not see that here because it's on the wrong side. Maybe I can tear it off. So for each of these layers, you have this pull down menu here, and you can set things like shaded or unshaded and textured and untextured for these layers. So I can turn this layer to be unshaded. So all the geometry that is on that layer will be unshaded. That's one way. And another way, and that's why I was saying, let's remember which geometry that was to say, I'm going to select this object here, and in the bonus tools under display, you will find toggle X-ray per mesh. So you can toggle the X-ray display not for the complete viewport, but you can do it on a single object basis. So now we have the X-ray turned on for just this head, and can see a little bit better, what this geometry is like. As I said, this may change. There are people already have said, oh, let's do something about it. Let's make this better. This is at the moment is not ideal. So now I can add more subdivisions. Another way to create new geometry is to hold the tab key. And then you see I can, on the forehead of the character, for example, I could start here to, not so ideal, I just draw a few polygons. And then I can take these polygons, and when I go to the mirror axis, they would snap together. So there's a certain snap tolerance that lets them snap together. Again, I can hold the tab key to extend the borders. That is completely symmetrical. Also, when I extend the outside borders, you see that happens on both sides. So it's a pretty cool thing to retopologize, and it's getting better. So let's have a look at the following thing. I have, a skull cap here for this character. It's actually a part of a sphere, of a polygon sphere. And I want to, because, these regular polygons, that's what I want for the object. So I want to snap this complete thing onto my live surface, which is not too much of a problem. If you go into point mode, for example, take all the points and move them by a little bit, they would snap. But then you have moved them already. So there's another way here in the mesh menu. You will find the conform tool. The conform tool does exactly that. It enables you to snap things to a live object. So the two projection methods, the old one is this one here, the closest point. The better one is this one here along the normal, which would give you better results when it snaps. And you see that's the result here. And the cool thing is now, since we have symmetry still turned on, I can now take my move tool and go into vertex mode, and maybe even turn on the soft selection mode. And now I can slide things around here on both sides. Since it's completely symmetrical, I can take these points here, can take these points and move them around. And I can even hold, this trick of holding the tilde key, which is the on the American keyboard, the key under the escape key. When you hold that, you just click drag points directly. So you don't even have to select them first. You just click drag them and move them around. That's a very sexy method of moving things around, because you don't have to click and click and click multiple times to move a point. That's the same thing here in the modeling toolkit. When I hold this, you see here it switches to tweak marquee mode, to this tweak marquee mode. That's the hotkey that I'm using. You can of course click it here to enable this mode. So that would be one thing. Another thing that you can do here is to select this other object now and merge them together, combine them together. So here in the combine, we have now both objects. And now I can go into and you see symmetry is still turned on. I can go into the quad draw tool and grab the edges here and snap them together, right? So I'm taking edges and points and snapping them together to make them fit, right? So this is not perfect here. I made it a little bit too long, so I'm modeling them, but at least I can do it in a symmetrical fashion. Make sure that these are, you see this on one side has not snapped properly. Sometimes there's a little bit of a snapping problem. I don't know what that causes, but now we should be fine. And then you can even hold the shift key to turn on the relax brush. Oh, there's even more problems with the snapping here. Bang. Go snap. So turn the relax brush on with the shift key. Will you or will you not snap? So now it has snapped. So now I'm relaxing all of these faces at once, which is super cool. So I don't even have to go around and move all of these faces and all of these extra edges to relax them or to remove the stress on them. I can simply relax paint on the whole surface. So super cool workflow in the quad draw tool. So let me turn this off. Actually, I don't need this object anymore, so I can remove it completely. And then I would turn off the live, select the character again, and in bonus tool display toggle the X-ray again. So that's a very nice workflow for retopologize, how you can snap geometry onto a predefined shape and then work with the details and even paint relax the whole thing to make a very nice geometry. Now, in order to, let's go back to the previous model that we have. So I created a smoothing here. So let's turn the number of divisions to 0. So we are back to the original Witcher Games model that we had, because I'd like to show you another way of working or handling symmetry. So I'm going to turn off the symmetry here. And let's say I've done something with this model. So I pick one of the points on the ear, or maybe even better, let me grab the complete object, and I'm gonna take the grab tool, and I have to turn off symmetry here, and then grab one of the ears and just move it around. And you see I can hold the control key to even rotate this stuff here, and then turn this back a little bit. Not so nice. You get the idea. I've modeled done something to one side of this character here. And let's say my supervisor now says, oh, this is perfect. I want it like that on both sides. Can you make the same thing on both sides? Well, theoretically, you could of course cut the whole thing into half and then mirror it over to the other side and sew it back together. But then you would mess up your UVs because it's not symmetrical. You see the scar here is on one side and this is only on the other side. So when you do the mirroring, you would run into trouble with the UVs again. So there is a new workflow in Maya. You can select some vertices now and let's say this one here, or this is the region that I want to have on the other side as well. And then there are two new functions under Edit Mesh. So you will find the flip. The flip is actually a function that asks me for a symmetry edge, which is this one here in the middle, and then takes these modifications that I've selected and puts them on the other side and flips both sides. So flip allows me to say, okay, I want to have this feature on the other side and leave my UVs alone. So don't do anything with the UVs. I'll undo that and select the vertices again. Roughly that the region that I've modified so far. And then the other thing that I can do is to symmetrize, which of course will do what you expect, it makes symmetrical whatever I've done. And that is cool in this example here, because now I can go and say, I want this ear back. This ear was perfect. I want to have it on the other side. Symmetrize. Here's the mirror edge. Now I have a normal ear on both sides again. Right? So, and as I said, the good thing is that you don't have to cut everything into pieces and then run into the trouble that the UVs have to be recreated and maybe copied from another object and so on and so on. So while we talk about these problems of cutting an object into pieces, let me show you this example here. It's also a new function in Maya 2017. Turn this one off here. So let's go and look at this example here. So I've created a blend shape object for my original. So this one here on the left side is the original character's face, and then I have created some blend shape, to make some facial expressions. I've just created a frown object in order to illustrate a problem that you will have when you rebuild objects, when you cut them into pieces, mirror the whole thing over, and so on, you will run into this problem. So let's assume I want to make a blend shape with these two. So I select the target first and then the original object, make a blend shape. And then this object here would have a blend shape node with a blend shape channel. And when I set this channel, you see this. Oops. This is a clear sign that the ordering of the vertices has changed somehow. It's not even so that it's a bad ordering on this target here. It's simply it has changed. and the two vertex orders don't fit together. And that can happen in a lot of instances. Whenever you rebuild something, you will have exactly this problem of vertex orders being messed up. You will find this transfer vertex order here in the mesh menu that helps you to properly order these vertices on the second object according to the first one here, so that the two fit together. It works so that you engage the thing and then click on the vertices. So for now, we're going to use this biggest polygon here under the eye on both objects so that we know which one to use. That's the only reason here. So I'll engage that function, and then it asks me to select 3 vertices on the source mesh. So let's go closer to the source mesh and take 1, 2, and 3 vertices. And then it asks me for the destination mesh, the same thing. So I click on the destination mesh, and then 1, 2, and 3 vertices, and it has done it. And for some reason, my texture, my shader is not working anymore on the second object. So what has happened here? When you look closely, you will find that it has duplicated the UV set. So it has created a new UV set for this new ordering, right? And unfortunately, I could switch back to the original UV channel one. It won't help. It doesn't fix the problem. So let's go into the UV linking editor and have a look what happens here. So the new map number 1 is now linked to these 2 textures, right? Which creates a problem because in map 1 we don't have proper UVs. We need to link UV channel to these 2 textures. You could also simply delete the other UV set. And you see, once I've recreated the linking, it works. So these 2 objects now have the same ordering after I've done this thing. So I can now again click on the source and then the target object, and in deform create a blend shape. And now when I click on this blend shape and take the channel, you see that my blend shape works. Just as a proof, it doesn't have to be a blend shape, but in several cases you may need to have a proper vertex ordering. You want to actually copy the vertex ordering from one object to another one. This is exactly what Maya 2017 offers you with the transfer vertex order. So these were some of the examples on the symmetrical modeling in Maya 2017, and of course in 2016 extension 2. Some of the functions were introduced in 2016 extension 2 already, and we will go on with some technical modeling after this.